Harold. So just kicking off here. Good to see you again. Been a busy, productive week. Certainly on my side. I wish I could talk more about it, but it's an exciting, exciting time that hopefully I'll be able to share more relatively soon. But I thought we had an awesome call last week, and as we discussed, we'll do two things today. Carl's not going to be able to make it today, so we're not going to do the idea of the sort of multi-city blob kind of idea that we talked about. Here's Sebastian here. And then we're going to hear a little bit from Sebastian about how his, hey, Sebastian, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Glad you could join. I thought you'd have to meet us at the half-hour mark, so glad you could come on early. But the other thing I wanted to do, Carl or Harold, was just get into this idea of planning an event. We can look at that list of places, brainstorm a little bit about what we think would be most impactful for that. I think Susie would probably be available for that, but hopefully we can get some other people in too. So I thought that would be a good use of time. We can talk about any other updates as well that have happened. There is a great event that's happening in New York that I have been advisor to that I'll talk about at the end. That's going to happen during New York Climate Week, which is about city CDR. That'll be at the World Trade Center at the offices of Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, which is one of the bigger, more prestigious architecture firms in the world. So I'll maybe give a little bit of details on that as we get to the end. How's that sound? Any hot takes or action items, Harold, to or just musings on things carbon removal and local intervention that you want to share?
Well, since last week, I presented to the Greenhouse Gas Removal Action Team, which is on Citizens Climate Lobby, that they should grab the challenge and start running with it. And I know Carl supported that, although he wasn't fully at the meeting either. But I think that's going to happen. And as a result of doing that, somebody who was on the call, whom you don't know, David Kuhnhart, former city councilman
he's great,
in Marin County. So David said, well, now where I live, I'm part of a group of wealthy retired folks, and I think maybe they themselves could do a challenge as a small group.
Perfect.
So I sent him.
He's in Maine, right?
He's in Maine now.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's do it. What town is he in? Do you know?
No.
Okay, connect me with him, and we'll. I would love to. We want to just get different species of this, right? So if there's that kind of thing that meets that demographic, and they feel like they could just do it with a small group of people, and they want to get together in a living room, and talk to me and go through the process and make a selection, that's a way to do it. And it would be cool if they did that, and then maybe they share it with the mayor of their town. You know what I mean? Right. Just to get some exposure for it. So I love that. David is phenomenal. I love that guy. He's a total, just one of the real good guys. So would love to have him involved in this.
So I sent him the 2-pager and a set of slides about the suppliers.
Okay.
Project. He sent those along with a letter to the guy who heads up the climate group part of their little group.
Yeah.
They actually have a guy who's been sort of proselytizing about carbon dioxide removal to the rest of the team. So that's where that sits. It's in this other guy's desk, and David felt very bullish that we could make something happen.
I love it. Yeah, I'm not surprised. He can definitely make things happen. Why is my thing not opening up here? Okay, cool. That is wonderful. Not surprised you had a good result. For some reason, it's not letting me open up the Four Corners website because there's a gateway error, which I don't know. If one of you guys wants to try that, because I want to download that report I mentioned last week that in the table of contents, or rather as an appendix, it lists all the cities as of 2023 that had at least mentioned in some way carbon removal, unspecifically or very specifically, mostly the former. Just start to think about this event idea that we talked about last week, because I'm very committed to doing it. And I think it would be a great way to, if we get David going in the meantime and, a few other things, then, to have a couple of pieces on the table to point people to, in addition to Boulder, that would be great.
So I'm on the Four Corners website. You wanted us to download something. What?
Does it say, are you getting blocked? Does it say 504 gateway timeout?
Nope. I'm on the main
Okay, great. Go to the resources part. I can't even look at the masthead right now, so I'm trying to recall from memories. There's one that's like Carbon Removal 101.
There's a CDR 101, yeah.
So if you go to that, it's a pretty good page too. I think you'd like it. It's got on the bottom there a list of specific urban types of CDR with some descriptions and sample projects that I think people will find useful. But if you look, there should be a reading. Is the reading one on there, where it shows
down at the
Goodreads?
bottom, there's a reading.
Okay, so there's
section.
2 documents that were produced by Carbon Direct and Boulder County. And if you go ahead and download both of those, I'm trying to remember which one is the. Oh, here's Sue. Sue, how are you?
Hey, fine. How are you?
We're good. We're good. Good to see you. How's the summer wrapping up for you?
Well, fortunately, we got some rain yesterday. I'm happy about that. But yeah, it's been kind of slow business wise, but we're going to ramp up right after Labor Day with the carbon removal challenge. So.
Cool. And I got your message there. We can totally do this CDR. Be good to kick back off with that now that the fall is here. Because I've been too busy to do any of those shows this summer for reasons you know. Okay. But yeah, let's get that one in the books. I had one other thing. Yeah.
Is the doc you're talking about in the reading something from CDR.FYI?
No, it's one it's called. Let me see if it'll let me do it now. Or you can share your screen and I can direct you to it. Oh, no, for some reason, it's not letting me open it up. That is disturbing, but it must be a problem with my internet or computer. You can share your screen and I can point you to it. And then we download those and it's an appendix of one of those. But real quick, so we'll talk about it at the end. We should talk about Climate Week because there are multiple CDR events, a few that I'm putting on and then a few other ones that I'm guest at that you will love and should definitely attend if you're going to be in the city. So
yeah,
we'll chat about that. Okay, so download those for sure. But let's hear from Sebastian real quick. So Sue, you weren't on last week, but Sebastian, well, tell us how it went, Sebastian, or if it wasn't the format you thought, but you were.
Yeah. So yeah. In actuality, it wasn't the format I initially had thought about, but it was kind of more of a workshop in a way. So basically, what's really cool is that they had the
wait, Sebastian, just for background, can you just quickly just give a just what you did or where you're from again, just in case because we're recording this. Just so we can pick up where we left off. Sorry.
So I'm from Southern California, the city of Camarillo, and basically we're kind of the leading point to getting collaborations with city and counties and private industries to hopefully be part of our initiative. And so last week, the city of Camarillo had a public workshop with regards to their climate action plan or sustainability plan that the city is writing up. And so last week, like I mentioned before, public workshop, and this meeting was actually kind of cool because I wasn't really discussing what we do to a committee. It was kind of like the project group that is writing up the climate action plan along with their consultant that's helping them write up their climate action plan. And so I think this is a cool opportunity because I was able to talk to engineers that are basically, being the forefront in assisting with Camarillo's greenhouse gas reductions. And so last week it was basically a open forum to discuss, get public input to what the public wants to see in Camarillo's commitment to reducing greenhouse gas. And so everyone basically discussed the same thing. They want to reduce water usage on the city parks. They want to plant more trees and whatnot, or increase availability for public transportation, or electrify city vehicles. And so I actually had the opportunity to discuss what is the open air collective, what is our challenge and whatnot. And so I think this is, and then I got their emails for the consultants because the city of Camarillo is basically using them as consultants plan a way to reduce the carbon footprint and to be carbon neutral by 2045.
Was that the one,
that's
Sebastian? Were those consultants the ones that we reached out to like almost a year ago that were?
Yeah,
okay,
exactly. And so surprisingly, I was the only one that brought business cards. You know, out of everyone of the city, Camarillo, out of all the consultants, I was the only one that brought business cards. So I was handing them out to everyone. And so, the project lead at the consulting firm is called Rincon Consulting. She actually reached out to me and basically just wanted to follow up on our conversation and make sure that we had a connection in case there are other ideas that we want to share or potentially teaming up and opportunities in the future. And so I think this is a great point of contact. Just
that's fantastic
for the city's perspective. So her name is Hannah Mise. She's a supervising climate action and adaptation project manager. And so I think this is the first city that she's done this climate action plan for. But they've been working on this for, I think, 4 to 5 years. Overall, their climate action plan required a lot of data for them to collect over the couple of years. And I think they started it before COVID. And so this is a long time in the making, and yet they're still asking for public comment. And so I think yesterday or last week was kind of like the last public workshop that they were going to host. The previous one was back in 2022, I believe. So it was been a couple of years since the last one. And anyways, yeah. So she reached out via email, and I'm actually currently writing up a response to that to hopefully just set up a time for us to just sit down and talk with her to discuss how we can collaborate, and if this could be, a potential solution to Camarillo's climate action plans. And so, yeah.
Good. Well done. That sounds like that was exactly kind of what we wanted as a best case scenario, is to be able to.
No, yeah. I was.
She reached out to you. You gave her the card.
Yeah. So I was under the impression I'll be talking to, public officials, which usually they don't look at the nitty gritty type stuff. But since I was in contact with the engineer and the project manager, who's the project lead for this climate action plan, I think I was able to discuss at a technical level with our initiative, just because most of the people, the public who were mostly there, they were well retired in their 60s and 70s, and so me discussing who we are and what we do, I think it kind of went over their head in a bit. I think there's a lack of education for carbon capture. All they want to see is like planting trees and whatnot.
Yeah.
So to be able to discuss the initiative with an engineer, it made my job so much easier, and I think she understood like what we were doing. And so so I'm currently writing up an email to hopefully set up a time for us to discuss or set up a meeting.
All right, I love it.
What do you think they think the initiative is, or what do you think the initiative is? I talk about the challenge because of the carbon dioxide removal purchasing challenge, and I think of that when I'm talking about something for a city or a sustainability leader to think about. But when you say the initiative, what are you referring to?
The carbon removal challenge itself,
great.
The purchasing
sure
of donation or whatever you want to say for $5,000.
Right.
That's what I'm emphasizing here.
Perfect. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
Of the stuff that came up, Sebastian, as priorities, some of which you just mentioned, was there any of them that kind of wait 1 second here. Maybe my son. You guys take over for a second. Just my son's coming home from school. So 1 second. Just gonna make sure he's not.
So let me see. I took a picture of their sectors and measures. So one of them is building energy. So increased use of CPA green power, electrify new buildings, electrify existing buildings, increase generation, storage of energy, install EV chargers, increase commercial EV use, reduce organic waste sent to landfill, continue water conservation, expand use of local recycled water. And at the very end, they have building energy, mobility and land use, solid waste, waste and wastewater. And at the very end, they have carbon sequestration. And so this is the first time I'm seeing this from a climate action plan from a city. But on their perspective, carbon sequestration, they do compost procurement, and then preparing a community urban forest plan. So all these are like nature-based carbon sequestration. And so when discussing with the engineer, I was like, I think our collaboration is a perfect foothold on that last sector, carbon sequestration. Yes, it's great. It's great that you're doing these things. However, with our collaboration and with our network of these tech companies, you can reduce your carbon footprint by almost a few hundred tons with us than it is to just planting trees. So yeah.
That's great. Well, yeah, you definitely got them to put carbon sequestration at the end of their list. Now, what that means, if that's just natural stuff, which is fine, it's a good start. But for instance, where does your wastewater treatment plant live for Camarillo?
That's a good question. I really don't know.
Because one of the suppliers for the challenge is a wastewater treatment solution that improves the wastewater alkalinity and sequesters, well, you could call it sequester, and we mineralize CO2 into that effluent from the treatment plant. So it's permanently sequestering some CO2 that way. And that's a co-benefit of helping improve the wastewater treatment locally. So you can start pointing them at the suppliers on the challenge.
Yeah. I missed some. I heard waste treatment. Sorry, my son, a little bit of a mix up with his drop off. He's leaving camp. If you could do me a favor, Harold, show me the screen there real quick. Let me just show you the document to download. And if you could give me 5 minutes, I just have to go run to my house and unlock my door for my kid. I apologize, unforeseen. I'll show you if you bring that up. Wait 1 second. Hey, buddy.
Where did it go? I had it up just a second.
All right. He got in. Never mind. I don't have to leave. Let me see if my website is working now for Four Corners. Four Corners. Yep. Okay. It's working for me. So let me just go ahead and
here's the page. You should be seeing this page, right?
I'll turn it on right now. Yeah. So those two. See that? If you hit read on either of those, I think it's the carbon removal strategies for local communities one. So try that one first. If you go ahead and hit read on that.
So that's a PDF.
Yeah. And so if you you can download it or you can just look at it on your browser. There's an appendix to that one that I believe says all of the different localities that have mentioned carbon removal in their plans. And when I looked at some of these are very bit of a stretch, some of them, to say that it explicitly says carbon removal, but it some of them are pretty vague about it and some are less vague. I didn't look at all of them. There's like over 100 of them. So let me know if you see that.
I'm looking at the very last pages of this document, which is the references, perhaps.
I'll find it in a second. I mean, let's start with this, I think, more sort of fundamentally. So we were just, I don't know if you can't remember, we mentioned it before you got on the call or after, but, last week we were talking about, so Harold's done, a presentation to Citizens Climate Lobby. That's obviously a network of people. There's other people that have signed up with interest for it. And we thought if we could do a kind of a next sort of call to action webinar that's more focused on sort of signups. And then also now that we have a couple ones in the works here that we we'd be able to kind of talk about it in somewhat more real terms. But the goal would be to kind of try to get people to be in a position where they're going to sign. They're going to say, I'm going to do it. We can ask questions or have a Q&A and stuff like that. And to do it not on Climate Week because there's so many things, but for time, we'd like to do it, relatively soon. So it could be, the week before Climate Week would certainly be a good one. And so we were going to do a little bit of planning for that. But before we get into that, Sue, I didn't know if you had any other, I think you had been in touch with, I couldn't remember if you were in touch with last time you talked, I think you were in touch with a CCL person.
Yeah, so I don't have anything new to report since then. The idea is that I would give a talk to the New Jersey CCL groups, but I'm waiting for the Avnos situation to be decided whether they're in or out, given that they're like right by me. So
yeah,
I don't know. Do you have any more info on that?
I haven't gotten any more since, but I can send an email again. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, or just if there is some kind of timeline when they know one way or the other, that would be helpful.
Yep. Yeah, we can find out. Okay, let's do that then.
How did Carl's presentation go? I think I was on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it went really well. He showed us pictures of it as well that his wife took. But it sounds like he got a good hook, and we were waiting to see. He couldn't join this week, but hoping that the follow up, that they're that was what's the next step. We did talk about as well that this wastewater treatment plant thing came up too, where some city official that he was talking to told him that the Palo Alto wastewater treatment facility was about to go through some big capital improvement or something like that.
Right.
And, so that obviously, picked his ears about, again, about crew carbon. And then we started to think, well, that wastewater treatment plant serves Los Altos and, many different localities in the area. So we were, sort of thinking, because there's a lot of similarities between those climate plans, like Los Altos and Menlo Park both have some of the clearest articulations. Well, what we can't do, we're going to have to do through carbon dioxide removal, which involves, things that involve nature and technology. So pretty well defined sense of what carbon removal is, and already a rationale for having to do that, but they haven't done anything about it, at this point. So that's, again, one of the strongest sort of places we think we can kind of insert ourselves. So, we were thinking whether it was around the wastewater treatment plant or not, what it really does look like to do a sort of a more mass, multiple places kind of in one thing might be easier, because they do a lot of stuff kind of in tandem, those cities. But yeah, hopefully I haven't, talked to him this week because I've been busy, but, we'll see if he had any follow-up from them yet. But he said it went really well. The picture certainly looked good. He had, what was it? It was a council, some official city committee that were.
Well, he had the mayor.
Yeah, that's right. They were all sitting in front of him, and he was presenting to them with a PowerPoint, and he seemed to be quite pleased with the way it turned out. So we'll see what we can leverage from that.
So in terms of an event, I started thinking quite a bit about it. If you don't mind, I put a little sort of one-pager idea together.
Let's do it. Hey, Sebastian, when you send that email, if you want to copy me on that, by all means.
Chris, can I send you a drafting email for you to review, and everything looks good? I'll go ahead and send it out to her.
Yep, that sounds good.
All
right, cool. Let me share this here. You see that, Harold?
I started sharing something, so
it's up on the screen.
Oh, okay, you can see it. All right.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking is, I started thinking about it, and I started to realize, wow, any one of the sort of subjects for a meeting could become a meeting of its own. And what occurred to me is that, for instance, as I mentioned, a lot of city managers, and that's who I'm thinking about in terms of the outreach, because I've been working with the ICMA, the International City and County Managers Association. Somebody there is writing this blog, and it'd be great if they were able to say, we're having an event or a sequence of events that will talk about, first of all, why is CDR important? And maybe why net zero is not as cool as we think it is. That's a little bit of a pun, and then you have to follow it up with, well, what could that mean for us locally? How can carbon dioxide removal benefit our communities? And just kind of go through and, talk about the various ways that it can do that. And that's, to me, that's a session by itself. Those two, that's a lot to cover.
Yeah. Let me ask a quick question, just as a point here.
Yeah.
It's important that we align on this. When you say that maybe net zero isn't so cool, I'm curious what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, it's not a mile. It might be a milestone on the way to someplace better than where we are.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah. You mean net negative? We're talking about.
Yeah, I'm saying if all we do is reduce emissions, and at some point think we've reached net zero, we'll be worse off than we are today in terms of the climate. It'll be hotter. There'll be more CO2 in the atmosphere, et cetera. So it's not a great place to end our climate work.
Yeah. What about beyond net zero? I think net zero is an important milestone, at least, that we'll have to reach that point. And but anyway, that's a matter of semantics, and we could obviously tweak that.
Right. I know. It's just the idea is we want to get people's attention, because right now, most anybody who's been working, in the way I see it, most anybody who's working on climate is thinking about how do we get to net zero and how do we reduce emissions. That's where their mindset is. And if you sort of jar that mindset a little bit by saying, that's not such a great goal, if you really look into it, it leaves us worse off than we are today. That's an important aha moment for people. And it opens the door to thinking about, well, then what can we do? And that's where CDR comes in. Big, more than just offsetting the emissions we can't get rid of.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think we can talk about how to, sort of style that in a way that,
of course.
But yeah, I think the idea of obviously going beyond net zero, negative emissions is definitely, I think inspiring to a lot of people and what we should be shooting for. So that's good.
This is really just a very, very rough draft. And so, I have no feeling that anything written down here is the way it's going to end. But I just was organizing the idea into topics that could be held. If you tried to squeeze it all into one event, well, I don't know if you could adjust it, but you might, or you could spread it off across multiple events. So that's a thought.
So Harold, who is the audience for this?
Well, city managers, county managers, people who are in charge of climate action plans, and starting to wonder, how are we going to get to actually net zero if we don't succeed in just reducing emissions, because it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get there through emission reductions alone. So that audience of people involved in government.
I would think what would be desirable is to do that, yes, for sure, as an audience, but also broaden it to the David Kuhnhardts of the world, or any of the three people I'm looking at on screen right now. I think it's useful information for both, and I don't think we'd have to contort the content too much to deliver two very separate messages to both of those audiences.
No, I have no problem with that, enlarging the audience. It's just that ICMA is not hard to reach.
Yeah.
They're one organization. They've got a huge number of membership. I think it's about 15,000, and lots of other followers who are not members. So, maybe 20, 30,000 people all told that could be interested in something like this. You can reach them in one way. I don't know how to reach people like David and me and you en masse. So invite anybody we can think of. I'm happy with all comers. I would be.
Yeah. Do we think we'd want to also try to get the Rotary world into that as well? I mean, I don't know. I know there's the one Rotary that you've presented to, and it's a very decentralized entity. Yeah. But within the leadership of a local chapter, they probably have some idea about how to push it up the flagpole a little bit and see if there's, some way of advertising it to, a network.
Yeah, I totally think getting Rotary folks into an event like this. I did talk with the co-founder of the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group, SRAG. So she founded that a little over a decade ago, I think, or co-founded it. And she's pretty interested. I've sent her the 2-pager, some slides about the suppliers, and some slides about why carbon dioxide removal is necessary. So she's looking through that stuff. We could maybe get an invitation out to, as you say, the sustainability people involved in Rotaries. I don't know the mechanisms of communication with Rotary, but she's definitely the right place to start.
Okay, that would be great. I mean, I think if we go, we just want to give ourselves, I guess, enough time to be able to promote it. So certainly after Climate Week, probably, now that I'm thinking about it, because the clock is ticking way too fast to do that. So we can, I don't know if you can speak to her about that, if it'd be helpful for us to just give her the concept of the event, or just, I don't think it'll take that long for us to get enough description of something that we could even just create a Luma for. So there's a thing that we can pass around to people.
Sort of a save the date kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or be on the lookout for. I mean, I think I put a list. There's 4 bullet points here of organizations that I think we could get interested in.
Yeah,
we talked about Rotary and ICMA, but
put ICLEI there as well. They're anticipating a similar type of event. ICLEI, I believe. That's another network that would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in favor. I'm fine with the idea of multiple events. I think what I would want to do, and let me know if push back on this, or we can debate it a bit. But I think if we had one that does kick off with a, certainly some part of kind of, framing or positioning why carbon removal is important to an audience of people who care about climate change. Like, that obviously goes without saying. With almost everything we do, we have to sort of start with that.
Right.
But I would kind of like, in a way, to explain the sort of the nuts and bolts and the goals of the initiative, and maybe highlight, a campaign with the goal of getting people interested in that action.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
then,
kind of tell them about the call to action before you actually get to it.
And then be able to have almost like supplemental kinds of events that we could do after that people can either attend live or that would be recorded, that helps sort of fill in some blanks. So we could sort of, if someone's watching that, like, well, I don't quite know enough about it. It's like, well, next week we're going to do one that gives you a breakdown. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just so that they look at the other ones as part of the learning process of their own campaign, rather than learning about CDR. And then at the end of it, there's the, we tell them about the campaign, just for time as well. It'd be great to really kind of get a burst of energy into this.
Yeah, I can see that. I like it.
And I'm also, in terms of how you have people, like who you have, there's big decisions you make about, is it very ask me anything ish, or is it really or just sort of presenting at them, or do we have people ask questions, or do we design it around our own kind of FAQ, that again is really quite practical? What other kind of co-guests would we want to have on that maybe sort of illustrate the power of the campaign? You could have the Susie Stripes of the world, or, it's difficult to make decisions around picking any of the suppliers because there's a lot of them, and then you don't want to have all of them on there. That could be a subsequent one, maybe.
I had a Meet the Innovators session here, which is all about just talking about the DOE vetting and various techniques and companies that are doing.
It could be even cooler. Imagine if we had a follow-up event to that where there was, but it was more like a, what's the metaphor I'm looking for? Not a jobs fair, but like not a speed date, but a where people understand they can sign up, and let's say it's an hour long, and you can rotate through from 4 of them or something like that. You pick the ones, and then you're able to you kind of meet the person who's representative of it, and then it just gives you a chance to kind of hear more directly from them.
Yeah.
That could
We
be very
have the
practical.
concept of the waiting rooms, an online set sequence of waiting rooms, one for each company or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. We could do that on Zoom. That would allow for that. I like that idea a lot. That kind of a 1-2. And I think in terms of giving people a deep dive on why carbon removal, a lot of people want sort of short things about that they can kind of watch on their own time, or none of us have the attention span, or most of us don't, at least, to kind of do super, super deep dives, or there's not like a high demand for big documents or long, overviews. That if there's more of a set of resources, some that are on that very page, some are very short videos, that you could, as part of the first one, we offer those to people. Here's a sort of set of resources that if we go through, we feel like it would make you pretty comfortable with the subject.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than a general kind of what is CDR, why is it needed, and here's a scientist who can talk about it, just make it easy for people to kind of explore that in a structured way on their own time through supplemental resources. You do have to do something in the beginning about what is it. Again, you can't ever skip over that when you're dealing with this, because there still is, it's a novel subject. But I think a lot of the people that would be attracted to this, if we send out to those lists, at least not the city manager ones and stuff like that, but a lot of the people we would want to attract to that are people that they're sort of self-selecting. They're already into CDR, at least have heard about it, and now want to take action about it. I think would be good. So I like that kind of 1-2 type of sequence idea. That one is, this is the challenge, explain to people, and then you have an opportunity to meet the innovators or suppliers in this kind of breakout sort of structure. The following week, same time thing. I think would be good. So that would be a second session, yeah. So we could. I think one thing I would have to do to kind of reality check that second one there is, that's a lot of coordination to find the suppliers. Try to think how we would, the likelihood of getting, 10 company representatives at the same hour and time. There might have to be another way of doing it. There could be things where there's schedules where what probably could be achievable is, during the course of a week, you could say there's going to be these 45-minute sessions, each one at different times is with a different innovator, and you can pop in there and ask questions to them. You know what I mean? So it's not all in 1 hour. So that also means that what's likely is that some people, when they see the surface level explanation of what the company does, they'll probably pick their favorites. They won't necessarily need to see all of them. And if there's ones that they're like, oh, these 3 I really like, you know what I mean? Or this one I really like, and this might be one, then they can go to that. And it's possible also we could record the other sessions with the permission, so that people could look at, here's the 45-minute session with, Avnos or whoever. I couldn't make that, but there were 8 people on the line who joined it, and they asked questions, and we'll listen to, the questions that were asked are probably similar to the ones that the person who didn't make it would. And it could also be moderated a bit, where we teased out certain questions from people, the innovators, that are generally illuminating. You know what I mean? So you have those sessions that people can attend live, or they can watch the recording, and you try to line them up over the course of a week or something like that. That might work.
Yes, I think the more we know, if we were to get specific about an audience, then we could really zero in on what we think would work best. For example, ICMA, where we know they're city county managers by profession, and we know what their day's like, what they have to do in a day of work, and what kind of information are they most likely going to need. So then we could really tailor something. Whereas, if we're doing city CDR or some of the other, it's a broader kind of range of people, and you can have a broader curricula layout. And I don't like the idea of doing it really right away, because if we're going to do it for a large audience, it's going to take a while to get the ability to reach the audience with information. We want to really hit the nail on the head when we reach out to them the first time, so their ears perk up and they put it on their calendar and show up.
I think for the city managers, definitely, because there's sort of two steps there, right? Like, these are not people that are likely to have CDR on their radar at all, and so they need to be engaged with first. This blog that is going out, this goes to that network, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would be good to do is, if we set the timing of it where in that blog, there's going to be an event on this. If this is interesting to you, you can find out more about the initiative at this. So it almost kind of serves as a bit of an advert for it. I think would be a good idea. When is he planning on having that go out?
He's saying that he will submit it to ICMA end of September. So we have some time to plan something.
So we said something more like October 1st or so, which is like 6 weeks away. That would, I don't know how long it takes for editorial review when he says he has to submit it. If it's the kind of thing, then 2 days later it goes out, or if it's the beginning of a month-long process.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer.
But I think if there was something where a reader to that got it, and then 3 weeks later or something, the event was, that allows for, people to schedule around it and for it to be circulated.
I mean, if we're going to try and do something this year and the blog doesn't come out until early October, kind of pushes it to early November. And that's about as late as you can go and still do something in the year.
And you convinced me of this too, Harold. We don't, this can go on beyond the end of the year. I want there to be I want things happening in a certain, level of volume, like, campaigns underway, not necessarily completed, by the end of the year for sure. So when you just said that early October, you were hypothesizing there, right? Because we don't know when the thing goes out.
Right. We won't. We just know that he's planning to submit it at the end of September.
Okay. Is there any way you could ask him? Because it would be good to time it properly, where that could, if it's going out to that large of an audience, we should, that's an opportunity to advertise this at a scale that, for that audience in particular, that we won't have another opportunity for, probably. So,
well, you never know.
Yeah.
Mark has got 30 years under his belt as a city county manager himself.
Yeah.
And so he will have some sway in the organization as they're being on their sustainability committee. And it could be possible. I mean, best of all thing would be if ICMA itself decided to be a sponsor in some form, maybe not committing funding, but at least to be an official sponsor of the educational event itself.
That would be awesome. Does he have the pull to do that kind of thing?
Well, I can find out.
That would be very cool if it would be. What I should do as well is I have to get back to ICLEI, who I talked to in the end of April about this campaign, and they have a schedule for when they normally do their own types of events, and wanted to get back to me on when we could schedule something like that. It would be interesting to do, if it's Four Corners, but you're able to bring out a couple of these network partners that can then be on the masthead for it, and co-brand and co-market it. Would be awesome.
Yeah.
If we get Rotary, if we can get Rotary. Oh, sorry, pardon my language. I forgot we're recording this. If we could get Rotary, that would be really, really good, to say the least.
Yeah, actually, as I mentioned, individual clubs have budget for this kind of thing at about the same kinds of amounts that we're talking about. So there's possibilities.
Yeah.
It's a question of how do we reach the audience largely. But
let's do this. How about there's sort of two asks that are put on your list and one on mine with this. C40 would be kind of a different category altogether, I think, in a way. But it's these more sort of local, decentralized chapters.
Mhm.
If I can reach out to ICLEI with the follow-up, because it's already been raised as a hypothetical that we would do an event together. And if you want to reach out to the ICMA guy, who's obviously really into the subject, and see if the Rotary contact knows of someone higher up where we can make those asks to see if we want to do this educational event on it, about this initiative. They don't have to do anything beyond, sort of be co-branded. They can be introduced, and then send out. So if we want to do that as an action item for this week, and to see if we can get responses on that, that would be very powerful if we did have those three and those three mailing lists. To market this, in addition to the other stuff that we do through CCL and
Right. Well, these are much. These are, these are a couple order of magnitude. Way bigger, yeah. And that's what it needs to be. So,
yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. I'll do that.
Okay, but do we like this idea of, again, having more of a call to action be the sort of the center of it? Here's other resources. That people can look at, and that we will decide this. This will take a little bit of thought to not just sort of spontaneously commit to, but whether it's in a single event with breakout groups, which again might be difficult to manage that in terms of getting representatives from all those companies, or a few different events like that are calendared at different times, that if people are interested in those groups, they can show up for. But I kind of like that sort of sequence, like they like, okay, this looks interesting. Where do I start? How do I learn about it? Okay, I guess there's now going to be this sequence of opportunities where we can have direct interviews with, with the companies. To me, that's like a pretty powerful setup for people. Do we like that shape?
And maybe it's kind of like a 3-ring circus. You've got sessions that are people can choose among, like a menu.
That's what I'm thinking.
Introduce them to CDR on one hand, because some of them will need that.
Yeah.
Introduce them to the suppliers. If they're raring to go, they can go straight to that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think with the general CDR one. I mean, again, I'm always game to do that kind of thing. I've done, 10,000 variations on that before. So to schedule something like that I could bring in Stephanie Arcusa or some other scientist that could, short presentation, then a discussion with them, or even just a discussion with them and questions and answers for people. That could be a good one, almost like a FAQ, that we kind of prepare certain questions that we think people will probably ask, and go through that with the panel, and then also allow people to ask more specific questions. So do an hour of that. That's not a bad idea. Sorry, my 10-year-old one more time here.
Okay.
Got dad duty here. Abe?
Some of these things, thinking, Sebastian, about where you are with the people in Camarillo, an event like this could help them also.
Yeah.
Dropped off.
Yeah, Sebastian had to jump off. He had either a half an hour at the second part of the hour or the first part.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But yeah, no, I agree. That would be a really, really good one. All right, so for timetable for this, we have to kind of get answers to these questions for potential partners. Obviously, we want to do it as soon as we can, but not so soon that it can't be properly marketed. So we're probably looking at a earliest, probably first week of October. But we should ask that. I'll copy you onto the ICLEI one I'm sending, just so you see it and the response I get. And if you want to copy me onto those other two ones, if that's how you communicate with them, I don't know, you might have a WhatsApp going with the one guy, but let's do it by email, and just see if we can get answers to those questions as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Okay. I'm on it.
All right. I should probably hop off because my son keeps hiring me and he gets scared when he's home alone. So this is the end of the summer, so I'm just managing that. But one of these days you'll see him on a webinar. His interest in CDR keeps deepening, so he wants to get involved.
Maybe you can write a guitar song and sing it.
Yeah, no, that's the older one. He's kind of into CDR, but not like my younger one.
Oh, I see. Okay.
More of a, he's got an activist piece inside his DNA, I can tell. So I'm trying to cultivate that and turn this into a family business without being too much of a soccer mom, a CDR dad, you know. So anyway, all right, cool. All right, so I'm gonna go home. I'll you know, I just want to do this while it's hot here. I will just send that email to my ICLEI contact. She's actually the ICLEI contact for the Southwest region. That was how she originally reached out to me, but I'll pitch it to her, but say, you know, could she advise maybe on how we might be able to get a larger ICLEI audience? And then Sue,
you know,
sorry,
Four Corners in her area, Four Corners.
That's how she got connected. Yeah, that was through Four Corners, actually.
Great.
Yeah, and then Sue, just a quick preview. So we got an amazing event at Cornell, which I think I mentioned to you, the Carbon Harvest one. That's focused on, that's turning out to be a very significant event because there might be a major COP-related announcement that happens at that. But it's going to be 3 panels. The first one is these high-level sort of ecosystem figures from Kenya, Brazil, and India that are in conversation about carbon removal in agriculture. So James Mwangi is going to be one of those, you know, celebrity James Mwangi. And then we have the head of Carbon Removal India Alliance, and then a guy who's the head of a network called Abrafin in Brazil. And then the second panel are representatives from the ag sector. So we have a tea plantation owner in India that is doing ERW in West Bengal, a farmer in the Finger Lakes area in what's it called in the Finger Lakes that's doing biochar, and then a bigger actor, Anheuser-Busch, hopefully will be joining because they're looking at carbon removal in their procurement of grain and things like that. And then we might have, there's a couple other ones we might have there. And then the last one is a zoom in on New York State, looking at sort of an ecosystem in maturation. So it'll be a legislator who's the sponsor of our bill, a Cornell cooperative extension head, Grain Ecosystem, which is a New York City-based company that's an intermediary between farmers and carbon markets around biochar, and then one other one I can't remember. But that'll be a very, very cool event with both a sort of a global and a local lens.
Okay.
And then the day before at the World Trade Center, there's the thing that Christiane is doing that I'm helping with, which is the reimagining cities as carbon sinks. That's going to be pretty awesome. The group of negative emitters. What's that? You registered for that one?
I registered for that one. But
okay. I just got confirmed because I helped get a venue, is the group of negative emitters, which is led by the Danish Ministry of Energy and Climate. But that's 7 countries that have committed to negative emissions to push the very much up your alley, Harold, beyond net zero, but into negative. And so they're convening an event at Columbia Law School that is going to be focused on how do we get industries, existing incumbent industries, on our side, you know, from mining and agriculture and transportation. So they're inviting some high level. They got Microsoft and Orsted are going to be participating in some other ones, but that's the Sabin Center will be our host for that one, which is fantastic. And that's your old stomping ground up there, at least at Columbia. And then there's also one that is, I think I told you about, that AIA is doing. It's not just specific to carbon removal, but there'll be some carbon removal companies in the mix. And that's about deep breakthrough decarbonization for building materials with a heavy emphasis on concrete. So that's got your name written all over it. And so that'll be at AIA on the evening of the 24th. So anyway, I can send you links to those, but just wanted to give you those because you'll, you know, we should be hanging obviously during Climate Week, but those are events that would be crazy for you not to make if you're available and interested. So just want to let you know about those.
Cool.
All right.
Please send me the links.
All right, cool. Sounds good. All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Sue.
Bye.
Bye-bye.